To Tell the Truth is the 15th episode of the 6th season of Frasier. This is directed by David Lee, and as always, there will be spoilers from now as I go through the episode and share some thoughts. Great episode, some really great moments, and I think a really telling moment with Niles as well, right at the end, so I'll talk about that when we get there, but this starts in Cafe Nervosa. Ross is there showing baby pictures. Frasier maybe made it a little bit awkward, but Niles actually said some really sweet things, and we learn that Niles is having issues with Maris, and Ross suggests using her lawyer, Donny Douglas, and initially Niles is a bit reluctant, but he agrees to meet with Donny. And he and Frasier are going to meet with him, and he's played by Saul Rubinek, and I apologise if I've mispronounced that. And it's definitely a lot more of a casual atmosphere, by which I mean Donny is basically undressing with a towel around him. But while he doesn't really seem to know what he's doing, he seems to have a very butterfly mind. He's all over the place. He doesn't seem to keep a thought straight. He then gets the lawyers on the phone and immediately manages to push it up to just a month's time so that they can proceed with things within a month rather than, I think, 7 months is what Niles was initially working with. And it proves there that actually he is able to do what he says, and he might actually be really good for Niles. And they're going to proceed with him, and we're back in Frasier's apartment. Donny is there, and Frasier is going to have to answer some questions under oath, and this is going to be a bit of a problem, because Frasier has to be honest, and initially it seems like he has to be honest about whether Niles has ever been frivolous with his spending. And of course he doesn't want to say yes. But then it becomes more of a problem because Maris is going to use Daphne to try and win the case. And this refers to the beautiful, one of the most gorgeously executed episodes of Frasier, the dance between Daphne and Niles that they had once upon a time in front of all of Maris's friends. And Frasier now has to either lie about Niles having feelings for Daphne, or of course tell the truth under oath. And once Donny leaves, obviously Donny's not aware of Niles' feelings for Daphne, and neither is Daphne. Niles thinks this is it. This is going to absolutely fall apart, and Martin gives Frasier a bit of a speech about a time when he lied under oath about reading this guy his rights, which I thought was quite interesting. And it does beg the question, is it ever okay to lie under oath? And they use the anecdote of a comet, or a hypothetical situation rather, about a comet hurtling to Earth. And if Frasier lied under oath, the comet would stop hurtling to Earth. And yes, I guess in that case, lying would be the best thing to do. But is it ever okay to lie under oath? I would argue not. But Martin's story was a bit of a grey area. So it did make me think. I did think it was quite interesting. And it's time to meet Donny again. Frasier and Niles go there, and Niles is supporting Frasier, saying it's not fair for him to be put in this situation with lying under oath. And then Frasier says all of the right things to support Niles. And it's just such a lovely moment between the two brothers. And then Donny comes in, and he's found something. He actually thinks Niles was keeping this from him. And we get a bit of suspense for maybe a minute as we wonder, what is it that Donny has found? But actually, Niles never knew the truth. Niles always thought that Maris's family money came from timber. And again, once we learn that that's not the case, we get another minute, maybe 2 minutes of wondering, well, where could her money have come from, if not timber? And we find out, when Niles finds out, that the family money comes from urinal cakes. To which Niles responds, she managed to have her urinal cake and eat it too. And it's a bargaining chip, because Maris will be absolutely mortified if her high society friends find out that her family money comes from urinal cakes, which I don't think is that big a deal, but I guess if you're Maris, it probably is. And we're back in Cafe Nervosa, and Niles is so happy. He's on the verge of getting his whole life back, and he's just absolutely delighted, and it's lovely to see. But this is the scene where we find out something really telling about Niles. And maybe it's not the first time we find this out, but it really reinforces it. They're in Cafe Nervosa, and Niles is so happy. And he turns around to point at Donny, and he sees Donny kissing Daphne. They've apparently had a nice time together. And in that moment, Niles becomes deflated, and Frasier and Niles go over to talk with them, and they make a joke, and Niles forces a laugh to be polite. And it's very clear that in that moment, Niles is about to get everything back, but it's not the same if he's not with Daphne. And I feel like in that moment he would very much trade all of that to tell Daphne how he really feels and to hopefully start a life with Daphne. And I think that that's really telling. And I think it was a really significant moment about what really matters to Niles. And then we end with Niles under the piano, which is where he finds comfort. So I thought it's a really good episode. Definitely very well executed. I think there's a lot of surprise in this. The surprise with the character of Donny, and definitely the surprise of the urinal cakes and how that scene played out, I just thought was fantastic. And then Niles right at the end there in Cafe Nervosa, just completely deflated when he sees Daphne and Donny. And I think it's very clear that he would give everything up in a heartbeat if it meant he could be with Daphne. Really brilliant episode, absolutely no complaints. I think, to tell the truth, is pretty fantastic.